6. Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Be seated. It's time for Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt. Todd Marquardt, attorney at law in Texas. If you're a millionaire or a thousandaire, Talk Law Radio is now on the air. Call in with your business law question, your elder law question, veteran aid, Medicaid, build a business to get paid. 210-308-8867. Or ask a question online at marquardtlawfirm.com. That's MARQUARDT lawfirm.com. And now it's Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt.
Talk Law Radio, I'm Todd Marquardt. Now it's time to discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. But first, let's check in with Joseph Warren for the Financial Focus. Joseph and his father and brother, they own and operate Financial Planning HQ. They don't sell insurance or investments. They work with financially successful people to develop a financial roadmap and a comprehensive written lifetime financial strategy, as well as align their subject matter experts to give you advice so that you don't have to worry about reaching your financial goals. That allows you to focus on what really matters to you. Joseph, what's the financial focus this week?
Yes, I thought I would talk about creating a reliable retirement paycheck and how you can make that transition from where you have a steady paycheck each week. I've seen clients struggle with this sometimes, to in retirement where you have to start distributing from assets. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of those tactics and how a coordinated approach based on the financial roadmap can really help you to have a clear picture of what retirement will look like that's tax efficient and allows your money to work for you for the rest of your life.
What do people tend to miss out on when they're trying to plan that retirement check?
I think one thing is thinking about it as an investment management only problem. So kind of looking at it from that vacuum of investment management of, my investment guy's choosing good investments, good mutual funds and ETFs. And, as long as he's doing that, I should be fine to take the money from whichever account. Mm-hmm. But when you think about it, a rule of thumb that you may have heard of is the 4% rule. Have you heard of that, Todd?
No, that was new to me.
So it's this idea that you can take 4% from any portfolio in retirement and it'll last you the rest of your life. So let's say you have a $1 million portfolio. It's saying that you could take $40,000 per year and that should last you for life. Keep the principal there. Mm-hmm. And it's a good rule of thumb. It's good to have these kind of like as a something to think about, just kind of get like back of the paper napkin type of math. But if you think about that and you don't have a clear strategy that's coordinated with the tax expert, with the insurance expert and everybody, let's say you take that money completely from your IRA or your 401k, which hasn't been taxed. Mm-hmm. In the 10 to 12% bracket, you're not really getting $40,000 to spend. Now it's becoming $35,000.
Right.
Because the IRS is taking a chunk, and that's each and every year. Mm-hmm. Right. So we start from day one by talking to a CPA, a tax expert, who's proactive and who engages in planning. And we look at, from a tax perspective, how should we be taking the money? From which bucket is it? The pre-tax IRA, the taxable brokerage account, the Roth IRA, the tax-free account. And we come up with a truly personalized strategy that, one, makes the money last as long as possible in all market conditions, and two, is tax efficient.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This is Talk Law Radio, Financial Focus with Joseph Warren with Financial Planning HQ, and he's talking about how to get a paycheck during your retirement or how to create one. And so what are some tactics that you employ to make that happen?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think the first thing is using those lower tax brackets, right? So the 10 to 12% bracket, if you are there in the early years of retirement before your required beginning date, where you have to start taking those required minimum distributions out of your pre-tax accounts, those 401ks and IRAs, making sure that you're getting the most out of that by doing Roth conversions. And with that, we'll talk to the CPA and we'll come up with a budget. What's the amount this client should be doing? What's the optimal amount of Roth conversions to do? And then not only that, we make sure it happens. And then we automate it. So each year, you know exactly how much to take in a Roth conversion. You know when it's going to happen, usually 2 times throughout the year. And you're building up that tax-free money, which actually helps you when you're taking RMDs because some of your money is tax-free and you have that tax-free option for later.
Right. Wow, that sounds really powerful. If somebody's interested in learning how to make this retirement paycheck more tax efficient, what should they do?
Definitely give us a call. If this is something you want help with, call me at 210-444-2128. That's 210-444-2128. I'll be checking right after the show, not during the show, after the show, I'll be checking my phone and calling everyone back right away so you can get the process started.
Great. You've been talking a lot about protecting the retirement paycheck. How does risk management play into creating a strategy for a reliable retirement paycheck that lasts for their whole life?
Yeah, it's being ready for whatever happens because sometimes life goes off script, sometimes the world goes off script. So one thing we do is we make sure, of course, you have the right type of every type of insurance. You're not paying for insurance you don't need, things like that. But a big part of that is Social Security and also things like inflation, stagflation, and market crashes. There's a big risk in retirement called sequence of return risk, which basically is mathematically true, but basically the rule of thumb here is the way you could think about it is the worst time for a market downturn to happen or for your portfolio to go down is that year you retire. So 2008 was a really bad year to retire because you start compounding off those losses in your retirement, right? So we have a plan for that. And part of that is each and every one of our clients knows the exact amount of cash reserves they need to have. We substantiate it based on, insurance deductibles, how much non-discretionary expenses for how long of a runway you would need, and also risks like the sequence of return risk. So when our clients retire, they'll have a cash reserve and a backup plan for even if the worst happens. Say you're retiring in the equivalent of 2008, and the market's about to go down. Well, there'd be a plan for deploying that money into the market little by little each year. And even if nothing happens, we will make sure that excess cash gets deployed into the market. So we're really thinking about what could go wrong and what exactly are the actions we'll take. Same with inflation. We did a lot of great planning with inflation in 2022 with Series I bonds and things like that. But we make sure the plan works under 7% inflation for life. Even stagflation, which we haven't seen in a long time, but I think that was back in the 70s. But that's where you have high inflation and little to no growth in the economy. We'll even look to make the plan successful 95% of the time or more in situations of stagflation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wasn't alive then, so I didn't hear about that. I didn't learn about it, but I'm sure that you study all the financial books. So there's a lot of options and decisions for people to make. What's a big mistake our listeners should try and avoid?
I think the biggest one when you're planning a retirement paycheck is just looking at it as an investment only problem. So kind of just looking at it like, okay, I got to get my investments right. You really need that comprehensive, coordinated approach of which account should I take from in terms of tax status. Asset location is another thing to think about. Like, should I take more risk in a certain account, maybe a tax-free account, than I do in a pre-tax account that's going to be taxed completely? So really having a team on your side where there's the tax strategies taken care of, risk management, goal planning, so you're confident you are going to achieve your goals, and having this team working for you so you can focus on the things that are more important than money, I would say is the main thing. And with confidence, as that retirement paycheck comes in, it's going to last you for life. It's the most tax efficient setup possible. But really what you're getting at the end of the day is you're just getting that paycheck coming to you automatically from your assets, what you've built over your lifetime. And you can just enjoy the fruits of your labor and just focus on things that matter more than money, I would say.
Yeah,
So,
how nice would that be?
very nice. Yes, yes.
So if I have a CPA and I have an investment advisor, don't I have everything that I need?
A lot of the time people do have, at least a CPA, they got an investment advisor. The problem is they're not communicating in most instances. I would say 95% of the time, I've noticed that they're not in communication. No one's taking that leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
The CPA is not saying like, oh, I need to communicate with the investment advisor. They're saying, I've just handled the taxes.
Right.
The investment person saying, my job is just to make this portfolio grow, not to worry about the taxes. We make sure that everything's orchestrated, everyone's rowing in the same direction and aligned on your strategy. And that leads to less confusion, more clarity, and it makes it so you get there to your goals faster because you really have this really smart mastermind of experts working. They all know what's important to you. They all know your strategy. And then we just hold everyone accountable to get it done so you can focus on your life, focus on your grandchildren, your children, and the things that you love to do.
Awesome. Thank you. We have to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about long-term care deficiencies. Stay tuned. Are you confident about your financial future? What if you had a clear financial roadmap and a team holding you accountable to make the best financial decisions no matter what? At Financial Planning HQ, Steve and his sons, Joseph and Jacob, have been helping San Antonio families since 1987 with inspiring, intelligent financial strategies. Whether it's achieving or maintaining financial independence, becoming more tax efficient, or building business wealth, we create a comprehensive, written lifetime financial strategy that's uniquely yours, based entirely on what's important to you. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Call Financial Planning HQ today at 210-685-2722. That's 210-685-2722. And take the first step towards financial clarity. That's Financial Planning HQ, inspiring financial strategies for San Antonio. Remember, 210-685-2722. I'm Todd Marquardt. A lot of people think trusts are only for the wealthy, but that's simply not true. If you want to avoid probate, maintain your privacy, protect your assets, or make things easier for your family, a trust might be exactly what you need. I'll help you understand your options and decide what's best for your unique situation. Let's talk. Call 210-530-4278 or visit marquardtlawfirm.com today. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. Now it's time to discover your legal issue blind spots by listening to me talk about the law on the radio. And today we're going to be talking about long-term care deficiencies. Did you know that more than half of us are predicted to experience a long-term care event at some time in our lives? The United States Health and Human Services projects that 56% of Americans turning 65 today are expected to develop a significant disability serious enough to require long-term care services and supports. Long-term care is expensive. In Texas, there's an average cost for non-medical home care provider at $30 an hour. And at 44 hours per week, that comes out to about $5,720 a month and $68,640 a year. Assisted living community in Texas is thought to be an average of $5,600 a month, which is $67,200 a year. Nursing home, a semi-private room, which is not private, is about $185 a day, $5,627 a month, or $67,525 a year. If you want a private room in Texas, those run about $250 a day, or $7,604 a month. So long-term care is expensive. Did you budget for that? Do you have high retirement income? Do you have a lot of money and investments saved up? Did you buy long-term care insurance? Are you going to rely on unpaid family members to take care of you? Are you going to rely on public government benefits? And if you spent all of your life savings to pay for home care, assisted living, memory care, or nursing home care, and there was no inheritance for your children and grandchildren, would you be upset? This is a hidden legal blind spot. In 2006, I wrote an article called Reliance on Government Benefits and the Struggle for Long-Term Care. It was published by the National Academy of Elder Law Attorneys. And my philosophy is based on something I read by a British scholar known as Blackstone. There is a moral responsibility, even higher than the legal, for children to help their needy parents. The duties of children to their parents arise from a principle of natural justice and retribution. For those who gave us existence, we naturally owe subjection and obedience during our minority, and honor and reverence ever after. They who protected the weakness of our infancy are entitled to our protection in the infirmity of their age. They who by sustenance and education have enabled their offspring to prosper ought in return to be supported by that offspring in case they stand in need of assistance. You can find that in Commentaries on the Laws of England by William Blackstone. That was published in 1836. That was a long time ago. I think those principles still ring true today. For those of you who thought Medicare would pay for non-medical home care, assisted living, memory care, and nursing home care, or didn't have a high-paying job to help you save for retirement and need government benefits to pay the high cost of long-term care, call the show right now at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867. Let me know where you're listening from, and I'll email or mail you a copy of my long-term care deficiencies checkup so you can know what the legal issues are when qualifying for Medicaid to pay the high cost of long-term care. Or you can email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com, and put in the subject long-term care, and in the body of the email, tell me where you're listening from, and I will email you the long-term care deficiencies checklist. But don't wait until you're already broke. If Warren Buffett and Bill Gates can avoid federal estate taxes by legal planning, I believe that people in the middle class can use the tax dollars they've already paid in the form of government benefits to help pay the high cost of long-term care. The general rules are that everyone who dies owning assets worth more than $15 million is subject to the estate tax. But Warren Buffett and Bill Gates can't avoid the estate tax through legal planning. So the general rules are that you must have low assets and low income in order to qualify for Medicaid to pay for long-term care. But there are exceptions to those rules in Texas as well. I just made it my business to know all the exceptions to the rules to help people save and protect their home, their business, their ranch, and some money. You'll want to save some money so that your family can buy you things to make you more comfortable. Medicaid might pay for the nursing home, but that doesn't cover everything that will make you more comfortable. By the way, it's hard to qualify for Medicaid because in the beginning, God had one law: don't eat from the fruit of that tree. Then he gave Moses the 10 Commandments. And now we have municipal, state, and federal lawmakers that won't stop creating new laws that might impact you without you knowing it. So listen to Talk Law Radio. Find this episode on podcasts everywhere and on YouTube, and share them with your parents, with your siblings, with your neighbors, with your friends, so they can learn that there's a lawyer out there and there's lots of elder law attorneys in San Antonio and Houston to help people qualify for benefits so they can receive a high quality long-term care and save some money to pay for things that the government doesn't pay for. Here's a question from the long-term care deficiencies checklist. Does the individual in need of care own a home? Did you know that an individual who needs care can qualify for Medicaid even if they own a home valued at less than $752,000? That's crazy, right? You can qualify for Medicaid and keep your home. Now, if you sell that home and turn it into cash, then the cash counts against you. But the home itself is not countable when you're filling out the Medicaid application. The catch is that the government's going to want you to sell the home after the Medicaid recipient dies and repay the state of Texas for the value of the benefits that the state paid out. Again, there are exceptions to these rules. This is Texas. It's the have your cake and eat it too state. There are legal and ethical ways for you to avoid Medicaid estate recovery program. Call an elder law attorney to find out how. Here's another question from the long-term care deficiencies checklist. Does the individual in need of care own real estate in addition to a home? Do they own a farm, a ranch, or a business? There are exceptions to the rules that might allow you to qualify for Medicaid even if you own a home and a farm or a ranch or a business. Don't let your friends, neighbors, and family members give you legal advice. Call an elder law attorney to fact check the legal advice non-lawyers are giving you. This is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt, and today we're talking about the long-term care deficiencies checklist. If you want a copy of this checklist, call the radio station right now at 210-308-8867. That's 210-308-8867. Tell us where you're listening from and that you want the checklist. Or email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com. In the subject, type deficiencies, long-term care. In the body, let me know where you're listening from and how I can get you that checklist. If it's by email, of course, I'll just reply to the email. If you call the station, you'll have to tell Mark what your email address is or your mailing address. I can send something through the mail. I once did that. We used to send a lot of mail, didn't we? So I'm talking about long-term care deficiencies because long-term care is expensive, and if you saved up your money and you have a lot of money or a lot of investments, of course you can pay for it out of those accounts. If you didn't have an opportunity to save up a lot of money, or if you think the government induced you into believing that Medicare would pay for all of this and you just didn't know that you needed long-term care insurance, maybe you have to rely on the government benefits. But don't wait until you're broke, because if you're broke, then you can't pay for things that the government doesn't otherwise pay for. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about the estate planning deficiencies checklist. Now that's about last wills and living trusts and tax-protected inheritance plans. You can find that episode on podcasts everywhere or YouTube. Just go to those sites and search for Talk Law Radio deficiencies, and you'll see those episodes come up on your screen. You can listen to them while you're walking the dog, working in the garage, or washing the dishes. And then share them with your friends, family, and neighbors so that they know how to plan for this. And do you really want your son and daughter or granddaughter or grandson taking care of you? Do you want them helping you with toileting, with showering, or do you want to have a paid caregiver do those kinds of things? So this is Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. In the next segment, we'll be talking about sinners and saints, and I have some other local news for Houston and San Antonio during that segment. And then we'll talk about legacy and Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. I don't know why people say that. We're supposed to be honoring people that gave their lives in defense of our country so that we can be free. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Talk Law Radio with Todd Marquardt is sponsored by the Marquardt Law Firm and does not attempt to solve your individual legal problems upon the basis of information contained herein. Instead, contact an attorney to discuss the specific facts and circumstances of your unique situation. The views and opinions of this program do not reflect the views of the Salem Media Group.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. This week I'm talking about the long-term care planning deficiencies checklist. And it's important because the cost of long-term care is expensive, and the U.S. government projects that 56% of those turning 65 will experience a disability severe enough to need long-term care services. Since this is the third segment, we talk about the sinners and the saints. You know, I like to talk about the sinners and the saints because Martin Luther, the famous theologian who nailed his 95 Theses to the church door, said that we're all saints and sinners at the same time. We've been sinning since birth, but we're forgiven and absolved because of the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. So I like to highlight somebody that's done something wrong and highlight somebody that's done something right. Before you become incapacitated, you need to understand and sign a durable power of attorney. I'm getting around to how this fits into the sinners and saints segment in just a moment. But do not do the cheap and easy thing. Call an elder law attorney to get advice about the durable power of attorney. Some litigation attorneys call the durable power of attorney a license to steal. You heard it. You can give your agent authority to make gifts of your money, to pay himself compensation, and to change your beneficiary designations. If your agent has good intentions and finds a way to do these things that somehow benefit you in the long run and are in your best interest, this is legally allowed. That's what the power of attorney is meant to do. However, if your agent is a sinner and has bad intentions, banks and financial institutions will allow your agent to take your money and won't know if it's in your best interest or not. It's very important that the person you choose as agent is trustworthy, that is, worthy of trust. Does your agent have the values and character to do the right thing, to follow the law, and to make sure you're taken care of? When I was preparing for this segment of the show, I've thought of that cartoon where the cartoon character has a little angel on one shoulder and a little devil on the other shoulder. So imagine your agent under power of attorney has those cartoon characters on his shoulders. What do you think that he'll do with that? And we need to talk about what is your prime objective if you need long-term care. So this is on the checklist. If you want a copy of the long-term care deficiencies checklist, call the show at 210-308-8867, 210-308-8867, and let us know where you're listening from. Also, you can email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com. Put in the subject of the email, long-term care deficiencies, and in the body of the email, let me know who you are and where you're listening from, and I'll reply with a copy of the long-term care deficiencies checklist. What's your prime objective if you need long-term care? Is your primary objective to leave an inheritance or legacy to your family? To spend as little money as possible on those high-cost long-term care services? Or is your primary objective to get the best care that money can buy? Or, number 3, is your objective to stay home as long as possible, even if the doctor says it's dangerous, even if you have little or no care, or you have to spend even more on private care like a non-medical home care provider? Your primary objective is important. The people you trust need to know to make sure that you're taken care of. In our office, we like to spell that out for you. We write it into legal documents that are legally enforceable. You've probably heard me talk about the take care of clause and the living revocable trust that we prepare. If you haven't, you might want to revisit the estate planning deficiencies episode You can find that by searching podcasts everywhere or YouTube. Just search for Talk Law Radio Deficiencies, and you can find that segment there, and you can learn a little more about the living trust. Has the individual that needs care or his or her spouse given away any assets or resource to someone for less than fair market value or as a gift? Well, if they have, you probably know about the Medicaid look back. There's a 5-year look back from the time you apply for Medicaid. This is known as the look back rule. If an individual applying for Medicaid has given away money or things, there's a penalty. You don't go to jail or anything like that. You don't have to pay a fine, but the penalty is the number of days that Medicaid will refuse to pay for your care. And that penalty is calculated by dividing the value of the things or money given or by the average cost of nursing home in Texas, which is $7,980 per month. Don't start giving away your assets unless you're working under the care and supervision and advice of an elder law attorney. Don't try this at home. Now, some people can still get qualified. You just have to work with the penalty. And an elder law attorney can give you some ideas about strategies and how to make that work. If you already gave gifts, say 3 years ago, and you need to move into the nursing home right now, call an elder law attorney to help you figure out how to get qualified for Medicaid. Don't just stay home because you think that there's no way to fix this. We want to make sure that you're getting the care that you need, and if you're not getting all the care that you need at home, then you might need a higher level of care, like in a nursing home. The reason I'm talking about all this stuff is because nursing home is expensive. Memory care is expensive. And the U.S. government projects that 56% of us are going to have a disability severe enough that we're going to need long-term care services, like home care, like assisted living, like nursing home care. If you need help with your activities of daily living, like dressing, toileting, showering, transferring, then you need a caregiver. And is that going to be an unpaid family member? Or are you going to have to spend your life savings paying out of pocket for home caregivers, for assisted living, for nursing home care? So in the previous segment, I was talking about some of the deficiencies, like, do you have a power of attorney? That's the foundation for how somebody's going to be able to help you. They need to be able to get your bank statements and your financial statements and your insurance statements, because the Medicaid application requires proof. You have to have a document that proves each answer that you enter into the Medicaid application. So even after you write your name and your date of birth, there has to be a document that proves that. Of course, that's easy. You just send them a copy of your driver's license. They need a copy of your medical insurance cards. They need copies of your bank statements, of your investment statements, of your insurance statements. They need a copy of your power of attorney. So filing for Medicaid is hard, and that's why elder law attorneys got involved in the first place. You might find it interesting to know that years ago, my mom was once a Medicaid benefits eligibility worker. And she told me that she would sit down with people at a small table like this, and they would fill out the Medicaid application together. Well, those days are gone. In fact, a few years ago, they even did away with paper files. So the Medicaid worker only gets the electronic files. And guess what? Sometimes the electronic file is missing some of those documents, because when we send them documents, they scan everything, and sometimes that scanning process misfiles things. And so Medicaid and Health and Human Services is always going to ask you to send more documents. They may even ask you to send the same thing. And so that's why elder law attorneys got involved in helping people to get qualified, because it's so hard. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about legacy. Stay tuned. Are you 100% confident that no matter what happens in the financial markets, economy, or world events, you will achieve your financial goals? If not, we have a process to get your financial house in perfect order and keep it that way forever. Your financial future shouldn't be a guessing game. Planning, advice, organization, and accountability are deliverables you should expect. For over 35 years, Financial Planning HQ has been San Antonio's trusted partner for comprehensive written lifetime financial strategies. Steve and his team, including sons Joseph and Jacob, don't believe in a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, they create a personalized financial roadmap for you based on what's important to you. As an independent registered investment advisor, they're not tied to any big corporation's products. They work for you, creating inspiring, intelligent financial strategies that put your interests first. Call Financial Planning HQ at 210-685-2722. That's 210-685-2722. I'm Todd Marquardt. A lot of people think trusts are only for the wealthy, but that's simply not true. If you want to avoid probate, maintain your privacy, protect your assets, or make things easier for your family, a trust might be exactly what you need. I'll help you understand your options and decide what's best for your unique situation. Let's talk. Call 210-530-4278 or visit marquardtlawfirm.com today. Do it before you die.
9:30 a.m. The Answer.
Welcome back to Talk Law Radio. I'm Todd Marquardt. On the radio, on podcasts, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on talklawradio.com. This is the fourth segment. It's our legacy segment.
And now, it's time for the Talk Law Radio Legacy Spotlight. What's your legacy? Sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm.
Marquardt Law Firm sponsors the show, and attorneys at Marquardt Law Firm focus on business and estate law, including last wills, living trusts, and tax-protected inheritance plans. It's all about legacy. So today, legacy segment, I want to continue talking about the long-term care deficiencies checkup or checklist. If you want a copy of the long-term care deficiencies checklist, you can email me at host@talklawradio.com. That's HOST@talklawradio.com. In the subject, put long-term care deficiencies. In the body of the email, just let me know who you are and where you're listening from. Or if you're on Facebook, you can post a comment on Facebook. Have you ever taken care of a loved one, like a mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandfather, or even a sibling? Well, tell somebody about that. Tell one of your other family members that story. Sometime when you're sitting down with a trusted family member, somebody who you're thinking about nominating to be your agent under durable power of attorney, when you're sitting down with them, tell them that you want to share a story with them. Then tell them the story about how you took care of your mom or dad or grandmother or grandfather, aunt or uncle. Then tell them how you want to be taken care of. Your story of how you took care of someone will serve as an example to the person you trust. And your example behavior is part of your legacy. So the legacy segment is sponsored by Marquardt Law Firm. You can contact Marquardt Law Firm by calling 210-530-4278. That's 210-530-4278. Or go to marquardtlawfirm.com. That's M as in mother, ARQUAR, D as in David, T as in Timothy, lawfirm.com to schedule an appointment to talk about these things. You might remember a few weeks ago, let's see, this was back in April, so that's more than a few weeks. I was talking with Christian Mueller about Pilates. He's opening a new Pilates studio in Bernie, and you can get a free intro to Pilates June 4th to June 7th. Just call 830-282-1005. Call 830-282-1005. And you might remember during that show that part of why he was so passionate about Pilates was to help grandparents stay healthy and mobile enough to play with their grandkids. I think that was really remarkable, and I just wanted to share that with you since we're talking about long-term care deficiencies. You can find past episodes by searching YouTube or podcasts everywhere. Just search for Talk Law Radio and Pilates, and you'll see those episodes come up. You can listen or watch while you're walking the dog, working in the garage, or washing the dishes. Also, working with Pilates was my friend Melody. You might remember that we talked about nutrition back in February. This is also part of long-term care awareness. Nutrition, genetics, and, well, that's all I can think of. Nutrition and genetics affect whether you're going to need long-term care in the future. So if you want to learn more about nutrition and you want to listen or watch those shows, just search for podcasts everywhere or YouTube, Talk Law Radio, Nutrition. And again, if you want to try Pilates and you live near or in Bernie, call 830-282-1005. 830-282-1005. And remember to tell them that you heard about it on Talk Law Radio. Since this is Memorial Day weekend, what are you doing to honor those who served, fought, and died for our freedom, for our country? And will your family members remember what you did this weekend? Well, I want to say a prayer. I want to thank the men and women who fought and served and died for our country, for the United States of America. Dear God, thank you for this day, for all the gifts and blessings that you give to us. Thank you for freedom, liberty, and justice for those of us who live in the United States. We know that our government isn't perfect. We know that our elected officials are sinners, just as all of us are sinners. We pray that you would forgive us our sins because of Jesus' sacrifice and resurrection. We thank you for sending Jesus so that our relationship with you is made right. We thank you for those who served in our military, who fought and died to preserve our freedom. We pray that you would help those serving in our military right now. Help them to defeat those who intend to kill us and come home safely. In Jesus' name, amen. It's Memorial Weekend, and last segment I slipped up and I said Happy Memorial Day, but I just realized that this is supposed to be reverent, to honor our fallen soldiers who served and died in service for the United States of America and us as people. And so I want to honor those who served in some way. How are you going to honor those fallen soldiers? I think it's a good example for our kids and grandkids. I remember a time when the Cub Scouts were going to put little flags out at the cemetery. And I think that's a good lesson for them to learn, to see with their own eyes the tombstones and headstones of those who died in service for our country. If you lost a loved one in service of our country, I pray for you and for your family that God would heal you and comfort you in your time of sadness. I want to talk a little bit about some more sinners and saints. The saints, I wanted to honor the men and women who fought and died for our country. I mean, literally, they died for us, just like saints do, just like Jesus died for us. So I want to mention that. There's a couple of more sinners that I also want to talk about, and they didn't really fit into the long-term care deficiencies part of the program, but it was interesting to me. If you're listening in Houston on KNTH 1070 or 103.3, you probably already know about this. Probably heard it in the news, but it was interesting to me. There are kids that are looking at their social media, and it says, go to Katy Mills Mall and cause a ruckus. I don't know what the actual social media post says that gets kids to go there, but that's what people are noticing. Another planned, quote, takeover in nearby Tomball, Texas, which is basically just outside the city of Houston, probably still in Harris County. The constable showed up before it began and was able to disperse the crowds. But this is sort of a new phenomenon where kids like to gather and cause a ruckus. What do you think is causing that? Why do you think they want to do that? It's interesting, isn't it? Well, maybe you should be aware of what your kids are looking at, watching on their cell phones, so that your children don't get in trouble. If they go destroy some property or vandalize something, that's against the law, and they're going to get in trouble. And I'm a parent. I was scared to death of my kids getting into trouble. I told them, one of the rules of our household is that you graduate from high school before getting thrown in jail. I'll have to share the other rules of the household some other time. But I did not want them to get in trouble with the police. So I've been talking about, I have another sinner to tell you about. There's somebody that is assaulting people at the parks. I just saw a post on Facebook this morning by the San Antonio Police Association. It happened in the northeast side near Tobin Park. If you're the sinner that's assaulting people, stop it and turn yourself into the police and repent. The police need more police. So part of this post was talking about all the miles of greenbelt that we have that people can run and hike and walk in, but there's not enough park police. So talk to your city council person, talk to the mayor, tell them you want more park police so that you can be safe at the park. I'm Todd Marquardt. We've been talking about long-term care deficiencies. If you want my checklist, email me at host@talklawradio.com. I'm Todd Marquardt. I'll talk to you later.
Most families don't realize they have hidden legal blind spots until it's too late. Wills, trusts, Medicaid planning, even protecting a business. These are the kinds of issues attorney Todd Marquardt helps uncover before they become problems. Todd is the host of Talk Law Radio, where each week he guides listeners through the legal challenges families, veterans, and business owners face, while showing them the practical steps to protect what matters most. Catch Talk Law Radio, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, 6:30 a.m. The Word, and now in Houston on AM 1070 and 103.3 FM The Answer, or anytime on YouTube. Planning isn't just about documents. It's about peace of mind, security for loved ones, and building a legacy that lasts. Don't wait for a crisis. Do it before you die.